I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wrenches in my top drawer. All right, what's up, guys? This is MJ100K, and today we got to talk about the UAW strike. It is October 7th, and the strike is still going strong, but we are going to talk about it today. I have my friend Angry McNerdy Face and Dane on the panel to talk about it. Now, Angry McNerdy Face is actually an engineer, and he has been an automotive engineer, a software engineer. So we're going to look at it from his perspective. And we got Dane, who has been a mechanical engineering technician at Cummins. We were both there working at Cummins, so we're going to look at it from our perspective. I've been a technician, engineering technician, and an engineer, so I'm kind of a hybrid. So we're going to get all of our perspectives about this strike here today. And first, we're going to look at a little news. So let me bring that up.
I can't believe the strike's still going on. Seems like they're not making any progress.
They're being kind of ridiculous.
Well, there's a little bit of progress. Let's look at this news thing, and we will look at this real quick.
We know they're money makers, and we know the plants they really don't want to see struck. And they know we've got more cards left to play.
A fiery message from UAW President Shawn Fain this afternoon as he updated members and the public on the status of negotiations with the big three automakers. Yet, unlike the last two Fridays, no new plants were called to strike.
Seems hard to believe, but today is the 22nd day of the strike, and at this hour, 21 states are outside on that picket line, and at the moment, it's going to stay at that number.
One of the big updates, President Shawn Fain said General Motors has agreed to include its battery plant workers under the national agreement as part of its contract proposal to the union.
CBS Detroit's Andres Gutierrez picks up the coverage of our UAW strike. He is live tonight from the Fort Wayne Assembly Plant.
Well, Amir, many of those members are disappointed that Shawn Fain didn't apply more pressure.
A dozen people there.
What do you say?
It's just like hardly anybody there.
So,
Where are they? What day? What day is this newscast from?
This is from today, or this is from yesterday.
Okay.
So October 6th, and today is the 7th.
Yeah. This is live from Detroit, so they're in Detroit.
Well, Wayne is like a suburb of Detroit, but have you ever been to Detroit, Dane?
Yeah. My brother lives there, actually.
Yeah, so when I lived there, I found it a little weird. It's like we got Detroit proper, and then there's a whole bunch of cities like right near Detroit, and there's like they're all right next to each other. There's like, so they're all close to Detroit, so that's where they are.
We just still call that all Detroit from people that don't live there.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much Detroit.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's listen to this guy
Today, but Fain says it's all about strategy.
We expect results at every company, and we've been crystal clear about how you catch a strike and how you avoid one.
UAW President Shawn Fain spearing all of Detroit's big three automakers in his crosshairs today.
But it's not about theatrics. It's about power. The power we have as working class people. We've shown the big three that we're not afraid to use it.
Earlier in the day, sharing a similar message while speaking to the Economic Policy Institute.
Is it just me, or does everyone think this guy's a total nerd?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
I hear a lot of spouting, and I'm like, I have a hard time taking that face serious.
Yeah. He's just been a union boy his whole life, probably. It's God.
Right. His life has probably been a union rep where he actually hasn't had to have a job.
Yeah. Or hasn't survived it based on merit.
A lot of assumptions here. You guys are making a lot of assumptions that you can't prove.
There's going to be a lot of assumptions, a lot of hot takes, and no facts to back it up. But that's what you're
Not at all.
Okay. All right. Let's finish with it. See what you guys say.
In downtown Detroit.
And it's not just our workers and our members, it's the entire working class. We've been beat down, we went backwards in the greatest of times. We're in a nation, the wealthiest nation in the world, that people still don't have access to adequate health care. It's shameful.
And so here's what the strike has yielded so far. Regarding pay increases, Fain said Ford, who was at 9% when talks began, is now offering 23%. At GM and Stellantis, it's up to 20%. As far as the cost of living adjustment, Ford and Stellantis have agreed to restore it, and Fain said GM is not far behind. But some of the 25,000 workers on the picket line don't believe it's enough.
I'm not going back to work for 23%. I quit.
All right, here, hold on. I gotta say something.
23% raise. Oh my God.
This lady is not going to quit. I mean, stop the cap. All right. There's no way in the world she is going to quit a UAW job near Detroit. That is the sweetest job you are ever going to find.
I hope she does, and I hope she's worth more than what they're paying her, and she can find a job that's going to pay her what she's worth if she thinks that's what the case is.
Exactly.
we'll
Know your worth. Know your worth.
Because you know what? All these people that want to cry, they're not getting paid enough by GM. If they're worth more, someone else will pay them more if that's what they're worth. Or, want to get real crazy, you can work for yourself and you can make as much as you're worth. You'll find out real fast what your dollar amount is.
Yeah, she'll find out. All right, let's finish.
All right,
I'm not doing it. It's not enough. That's not even enough to keep up with cost of living. No, it's not enough.
Today's concession from GM to include battery plant workers under the national agreement only happened after the UAW threatened to expand the strike to a GM plant in Arlington, Texas, that makes the company's full-size SUVs like the Escalade and Tahoe. In a statement, GM wrote, "Negotiations remain ongoing, and we will continue to work toward finding solutions to address outstanding issues. Our goal remains to reach an agreement that rewards our employees and allows GM to be successful into the future."
I know he's trying to look out for us for the best deal, but at the same time, you need to keep it moving, keep shutting stuff down and get this over with,
Okay, let me jump in here. See, this is why I think they have a union, because I think that is a terrible negotiation tactic right there. If the negotiations are going well, as a show of good faith, the union is not going to continue to shut down more plants. I mean, that's just going to kind of mess things up. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, kind of. If they really want to force the issue, I think they need to be more aggressive from the get-go. But now that they're kind of getting their way, right, it's probably time to start backing things off in good faith. Yeah, I got a lot to say. But did you see what Ford did here recently within the last day or two? What? So since some of the plants have got the strikes going on and they're not producing products, the next plant in line that would receive those products isn't getting them. So they just laid off like 500 or 1,000 people or something crazy because of these strikes. So now you got people without a job that would normally have a job because of the strikes too. So it's not
supply
really
chain economics.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Suppliers, all the suppliers. That may or may not be unionized. They're dependent on that too, and that's just orders have stagnated for them.
Yeah,
and then all the non-union employees at all these automakers, they're pretty screwed. It's not just them, it's like they want to represent only themselves, and it's, okay. I mean, you got to see the big picture here, man. Like you're really screwing over a lot of people.
Okay. All right. Well, let's finish up and then we'll jump in all together. Let's finish. Right.
Now, the concession from GM comes on the same week that they said that they've lost $200 million in the first 2 weeks of this strike. Amir, Terrence?
All right, Andres, thank you. He's been watching this very closely for us. We appreciate those updates.
Thank you, Andres.
Okay, so there we go. So, guys, the one thing I want to say first before we start, it's a big deal for the UAW to have the battery work, the people that are going to be making the batteries for these electric cars, to be included in the union. I think that's a big deal, and I think that's a good thing. But all right. So anyway, these are the questions. Can
I pause you?
One at a time. Question one is, what do you think of the current strike? And question two is, what do you think of the UAW in general? I'm gonna let you go first, Dane.
I got mixed views here. So I'll just say from the get-go, if these people in the union, if they feel like they're being treated poorly, they all need to band together and do what they think's best for them. So it's all go on strike and demand more. Good for you. Do that thing. On the other hand, I feel like there was a time and place for unions because work conditions used to be poor. Now the work environment's pretty competitive, and I don't really see a use for unions anymore. So I think right now the union's holding most of these people back. So what the unions are doing, and it's kind of a blanket thing, not just the UAW, is they're going to set all the standards for every employee. Here's your minimums. Basically, all anybody's ever going to do is your minimums. You do this, you get paid X. Come in at this time, punch out at this time. There's no incentive to be better. So there's no real. You take all the competitiveness out of the field, right? So these people that feel like they're worth more than they're getting paid, leave. If you're worth more, someone will pay you more, or you can work for yourself and you can make as much as you decide you want to make. So yeah, we can go further into this, but that's kind of the broad overview where I'm at.
Okay, what about you, Angry McNerdy Face?
Yeah,
What do you
man,
think?
I agree with everything Dane said, and he's been inside and out of this equation. He worked with the office committee union, and we worked with the diesel workers union, and man, the diesel workers union, as frustrated as we were with them, the UAW is way bigger, very enormous. Like that's like the biggest union, and just the biggest bureaucracy too. And
hold on, James. Let me just tell the viewers when he's saying what he's talking about is the unions that are at Cummins where we used to work. So we got the diesel workers union, and then OCU, which is what me and Dane were in.
Office committee union, yeah.
Office committee union. So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of bureaucracy we dealt with those much smaller unions by comparison is just outrageous. In my experience, they really only protect bad workers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if you're a good worker, you're hamstrung by the bad ones, and it's like they're a weight holding you back all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't imagine. I was in a union early on in my career, and I just couldn't imagine going back to that. I just once you get out of that and you realize your self-worth, there's no looking back at that point. It's like you just got to move on.
Okay. And what do you think of the current strike?
I think it's really heavy-handed, and I think it's pretty ridiculous that they're targeting multiple auto manufacturers at once with this thing. Like they're not just mad at GM or Ford or Stellantis. They're mad at like all of them, every one of them. Like why all of them? And it seems like, as far as I know, the most recent union contracts, I think we're going back maybe 2 or 3 years. I mean, everybody was getting big raises. Everybody was getting, just a lot of benefits. There was no need to go on strike. And, and each automaker kind of like had their own contract, right? It's like, why do they all have to be the same? That's what I don't like about this strike. It's like they're trying to like just make the benefits the same regardless of which company you go to. Like, what the hell is that all about? It's like, who do you answer to?
Yeah.
These companies don't have to hire you. I mean, you don't have to have a job there.
Right. Yeah. They feel like they're owed something.
Close shop.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is on the table. They could just close down business, and they could just say, oh, you know what? None of you are coming back. That could happen.
All right. So that's what Angry McNerdy Face thinks. So I'm going to say what I think, and then we're going to have a big argument. All right. So I'm going to look at it a little bit differently from you guys. As far as the current strike, it looks like things are going pretty well. They got the concession to get the battery workers involved in the union. That's a big deal because, if the industry goes towards electric, then a lot of people are going to be out of luck. And so that's a good thing. It looks like the strike is going well. I hope that they could come to an agreement soon. obviously. But yeah, I think some of the things that they were asking for at the beginning of the strike, like do you want to work 4 days and only get paid for 5 days? That's pretty ridiculous. But that might be part of the negotiation tactic to ask for things that you're not going to get, but just to have somewhere to go with negotiating. But as far as the UAW in general, I think that the union is a good thing, and let me tell you why. So before I came to Cummins with you guys, I worked at a Honda dealership in Philly, and they had a union, but like I guess they didn't have any power with this union. And when things got bad in 2008, they really treated the workers very badly, I thought. They laid off a whole bunch of people, which is understandable. But once the economy got better, I think they should have hired us back. And instead of hiring us back, they were hiring people making half of what we made. And the quality of the dealership went down from what I heard anyway. They were hiring people who didn't know what they were doing. I think that if they had a union there, that wouldn't have happened. Or if they had the UAW there, that wouldn't have happened. And they also, what they did? They had like A Tech, B Tech, and C Techs, right? And A Techs were at the top, then B, then C, then D. They hired this new service manager, and he just came in and out of nowhere said, okay, everybody who was an A Tech, they were making X amount of dollars, you're now a B Tech making this amount of dollars. And if you're a B Tech, now you're making C Tech money. Just out of nowhere, just decreasing somebody's pay out of nowhere. And a couple guys quit. I thought that was really unfair. So I think that unions in general, they give the workers a voice. And if the union is strong, like, the UAW is, it gives you a voice when you don't have any power other than that. What do you think of that?
I think it still comes back to the individual, man. Like I said, if you take your situation, for example, they lay people off, bring people back at half the pay. Some people they kept and changed their pay rate a lot. Hey, good on those guys for quitting, because if they're good quality dudes, they can find shop down the road that's going to pay them just as much or more, and be on it. And that's and it sounds like that was a bad business decision made by that business owner or president of the company or whoever that was. And the lesson they're going to have to learn, right? If everybody walks up and leaves, says we don't want to take this pay cut, well, now they're hosed. Now they got to eat it. So they could retract at that point. But if you have someone else doing your bidding for you and you decide to stay, you're still stuck. You might still not be happy. Are you ever going to be happy if you got someone else doing all the bidding for you? You're not actually taking care of your own destiny.
Yeah, but I mean, if the guys that chose to stay, they got families, they got bills to pay. They don't really have as much power to just get up and leave.
This was at a dealership, MJ?
Yeah, it was at a dealership right outside of Philly.
Like, was it like a network of dealerships or something, or just a single dealership?
Well, I only worked at one dealership. It was a Honda dealership, but that union, I think they had a couple other dealerships that they were involved with, but man, they didn't help us at all when they just changed everybody's pay like that and laid everybody off.
Yeah, they want to collect their dues and just disappear. Sounds like maybe you're kind of stuck in that job because you feel like you can't make it anywhere else. And that's more of an emotional argument than anything, because we all have to deal with the same stuff at the end of the day. We all have the same struggles and challenges. And some of us just kind of make it through these challenges a little better than others. I'm more of an individual, but I get that there are some people out there that they just want to be a number. They just want to punch their card and they just want to go to work, and that's all they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's okay, but we need people like that.
Yeah, they find power within the group construct. It's really just, we're talking about like two ends of the spectrum here. Like on one end you have a meritocracy, and the other end you have equity, social, whatever you want to call it. And they're very much at odds with one another. I'm more of the meritocracy type. I've just lived based on my own merit, and like if I don't like the way things are going, I move on. Simple as that. I don't want to be weighed down. Yeah, the most infuriating thing that you mentioned though is the fact that they decreased your pay. You should
out of nowhere
just automatically leave at that point. Like that's
but we couldn't, man. The economy was collapsing all around us.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember this from 08, it wasn't like all these stimulus checks and everything. Like people were out of luck. And what some of the credit, like, you know how some people, they don't have a lot of money in the bank. So they said, well, look, I got money on my credit card just for emergencies. What they did was a lot of credit card companies said, okay, let's say your balance is $8,000 and your limit is $10,000. They automatically decreased your limit to whatever you owed them at the time. it was money nowhere. I mean, it was crazy.
I was I was still in college in 08, so I'd started interning at Cummins, but I do remember that. And Dane, that's probably when I first met you, when Cummins started going through a big round of layoffs, and that was happening during my first internship with them. I think I was like, man, this is I'm watching people with PhDs get walked out the door.
Yeah,
like, this is scary. And this ties in directly with what we're seeing at the UAW, and this is kind of the folks that no one's speaking for, the engineers, the non-union salaried personnel.
Right.
They're going to get hosed because guess what happens when you increase OPEX? You have to decrease your CAPEX. And I don't throw out financial terms here. OPEX is your operating expenditures. Their OPEX is going to increase drastically as a result of this strike. And business is business. They got to get that money from somewhere. They're going to have to cancel future product. They're going to have to cancel future plans. They're going to have to delay future product. They're setting themselves behind in the market. I mean, this might be a win for labor, but it is a loss for these automakers because they're not going to be able to invest in their product. They forecasted out all these new projects, and all that stuff's getting delayed now. And that's probably why this strike has taken so long, because now they're like, okay, how many engineers do we have to fire now? How many tech centers do we have to shut down now?
Yeah. And their ask
is, you got something to say, Dane?
Yeah, their ask is pretty ridiculous too, right? You guys saw they're wanting 40% pay increases.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
4 days, 4-day work week, get paid for 5. It's like, are you going to produce 5 days worth of product?
Plus a 40% increase on pay.
Yeah. Well, I think they're settling somewhere around 22 to 25. You remember with negotiating, like you ask for the sky and then you settle for like halfway between.
Yeah.
Sure, but let's take the average UAW salary. What do you guys think that is for someone that's been there for like 5 years? Because most of these people have been there for quite a while.
If somebody's just tightening one bolt on one feet.
Most of them are probably close to $30 an hour.
Probably.
You know, and you're wanting a 40% increase or even a 30% increase on top of that. Does that really make sense? I mean, that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
And honestly,
I don't know. I mean, well, that's what I wanted to talk about is I think that as a society, it might be a good idea to stop being so jealous of what other people are making. And what the young people, they call it now, is called pocket watching. Like, so people are and this on both levels. So people are pocket watching the people who are putting together the stuff, right? And then it flows up to, they got engineering technicians there too, like what we did at Cummins, that, you know, they figure out the warranty returns, they help with the prototypes and everything. And then you got the CEO, and people were like, oh, why is the CEO's making so much money? Look, the CEO and the people at the bottom, they should negotiate for as much money as they can without the company going out of business. The company hasn't gone out of business yet from what they're paying anybody. So I think that both of them deserve it, because you know what? The people at the bottom, you know, they're just turning one bolt. Of course, Angry McNerdy Face, Dane, I believe you could do those jobs, right? but you wouldn't want to for long term. You do
Exactly.
that job for 2 weeks and you would quit because that's how your brain works. You got to be, you know, doing other things. But those people that can do that, that needs to be done. And those people have to be there on time every day. And they extend their shifts. They make them come in on weekends, or they have to do it, but they can do it. So let them get paid. And the CEO, I don't think we could do that job either. That's a very difficult job. We're trained as engineers and technicians. That CEO job, that's a business job. And that's a whole nother world that we don't even know about. So that's how I feel about that.
I've been on a sales team for
Pocket
2 years.
watching. What?
So speak for yourself, MJ. I've been on a sales team for 2 years, man. I'll have you know I have 2 years of experience.
Oh, excuse me. So, Dame, do you think you could do either of those jobs, Angry Nerdy Face? Turning one bolt or being the CEO of a giant company like GM?
I know I could. I absolutely know that I could. But the thing is, you're going and turning that one bolt. If you're not looking for opportunities to excel from the very beginning, then you're just doing the bare minimum. And it's like, why should you be rewarded grossly for doing the bare minimum? This is eternal clash between equity and merit. And like that, we're seeing that played out in this like grand scale right now.
I liked a lot of things you said there, MJ.
Do you agree with the stop pocket watching, or are you going to continue to pocket watch?
I agree with the pocket watching. You said some good things there. Like one, like I said, people are watching that next step up, right? They're wanting to get there, or they think that they believe that they deserve some of that next thing up, you know. And the we keep calling them the bolt turners, but you know, most of those jobs at the lower end or on the manufacturing side are they're low skilled jobs. It's moving parts. You get training for 10 minutes, you can work for 2 weeks until it's time to do the next thing, right? And you went on to mention too that you know, these people, when they come in, they should negotiate the best possible salary for them. Well, you're in a union, you can't negotiate a salary. The union does that for you, and that's set. So even if you're the best bolt turner and you deserve more than all the other bolt turners because you're the best bolt turner, you ain't gonna get it. Not when you're a union, anyways. If the union's gone, somebody could see that, be like, hey, this guy's the best bolt turner. Maybe we turn him into training the rest of the other guys, right?
So let me say, Dane.
Yep.
So I will tell you, when I went from working at a dealership to working at Cummins, and I was in the union, I did like the fact that you didn't have to negotiate your salary, because I'm not really good at negotiating, to be honest. Like if I find a company, like a job that I really like to do, like I'll just be like, look, just pay me whatever. I really want this job. I really enjoy it. Like I did enjoy working at Honda, and I did enjoy working at Cummins. I mean, in fact, you know what I said in my interview? I was like, and I meant it. I was like, look, let me tell you something. I would do, if I hit the lottery, and you gave me this job, I would still be there. I would still show up to do this job because this is what I want to do. And I meant it.
Yeah.
So for my mindset, I'm not going to be able to negotiate anything. And I remember they said, look, this is your hourly rate. And then even before I started the job, like a month later, they were like, oh, the union just negotiated a new contract. It's actually more than what you were promised. I was like, sweet. So to me, it was great not having to negotiate. When you're at a dealership and you have to negotiate getting promoted, man, it's such a hassle, man. It's like oh man, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Some people don't like it. I liked not having to negotiate.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know, if you want someone else to do it for you, but realize the drawbacks too. So there's, at some point, these people that want to complain that they're not getting paid enough or not worth enough, they need to take accountability at some point, right? It's either because they need to go find new opportunities for themselves, or they need to make themselves more valuable, right? Build the skills to get into that next higher paying position. You know, if somebody at GM's a CEO, they weren't born a CEO. They went to school, they made the connections, they did the work it took to be that person. You can do that too. No one's stopping you.
I hear you. I hear you, Dane. But on the same token, like we do still need people that will not always be reaching for the next best thing. We do need people that will be happy doing the same thing for 10 years straight. And, I know that it's hard for us to wrap our brain around, but just as a company, whenever you lose somebody that goes up, you got to pay to hire somebody else and train somebody else. So if you have people like that who will do that same job or even just a similar job for a long time and be on time, it's actually valuable to the company to have that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm actually feel like I'm in that position now where I don't want to move up. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not chasing higher things. I'm not asking for raises. I'm very content. So I guess the question I have is people that feel like they deserve more, but still doing the same lower skilled job. What makes them more? Why do they deserve more? What makes them more valuable? How do we make them understand that you're still doing a low skill job and you're not going to get paid more money unless you increase your skills, right? Whether you're an expert or not, you can take your yearly raises, you can take your whatever that comes along. Adding, let's just say they end up settling at 30%. That's a big freaking raise. Have any of you guys ever got a 30% raise? Have you ever got a 10% raise?
You gotta go to a
I've
new
gotten
company.
big raises. I've gotten big
The only way
raises.
to get a raise like that is to change companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't want them to change companies. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Dane. But
Yeah.
I think the last union contract, they were going out of business and they didn't ask for as much of a raise as they thought they should get. So I think their reasoning is they wanted to ask for it now that the company's doing better. I mean, so I think that's their reasoning. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, they still get profit share and bonuses and that kind of stuff too. And of course, there's other things that are always in the background that don't quite hit the news. They probably have negotiations too with their benefits and their pensions and all those other things that are on the back end as well that don't necessarily, like I said, hit the headlines, but they're a major expense to the company.
Angry McNutty Face, did you want to say something?
Oh man, Dane's saying so many good things.
One of the best things.
What I want to know, why do you think you could be a CEO or GM? Do you really believe that?
Yes, I could. Get me in the door. Get me in there. I know enough about business. I know enough about the business.
Are you being serious?
I can make some sound decisions for a little while.
For a little while.
Yeah.
No
doubt. But like anything, it's you have to just you gotta maneuver your way into that position. But I just wonder what their retention rate is at those low skilled positions too. It's like, if you're 20 years on the job and you're still doing the same thing, whose fault is it really? Just the concept of negotiating for higher salary, I was pretty scared of it too until I learned how to do it. And then it's business. It's purely business. And some companies are better than others. Bigger companies, more organized organizations that have a lot of like framing around how they structure raises and what is your title and what is actually required of you and how can you excel in that position. And if you do excel in some demonstrable way, you get a pay raise. It's pretty easy to identify that stuff when the company's organized. But when you're at like a smaller company or something, the lines are blurred, it's more gray. I'm just used to being in that engineering, that professional vein where it's like, man, if I want to make more money, I got to leave. You know what the retention rate is for software engineers?
What?
It's like 18 months.
Yeah.
For 2 years or so. It's low, man. These people move around from company to company because it's the only way you can get paid. That's that pocket watching concept you just brought up. It's like, you want to get paid, it's like, you got to change companies, man. You got to move on and up. It's the only way you're going to get paid.
So James, I'm saying, I think you're looking at it from the perspective of a person where you have a lot of skills that nobody else has. So you're going to be able to move around and ask for more money and things like that. But for somebody who's working the line or even a technician like what we were, there are more people available with those skills that you could easily be replaced. So it's harder for those people to negotiate for themselves as individuals.
I mean, like Dane just said, you're not born a CEO. I wasn't born an engineer. I wasn't born a seasoned engineer. I had to keep learning. You never stop learning. Somehow people manage to just fudge that. Somehow people manage to just forget that, like, you're a human, and if you're properly human, you constantly grow, adapt, and evolve and learn. And if you stop learning, if you're doing the same thing for years and years and years, then
Well,
don't complain about the result, man. Like, just, you got to keep growing and learning.
let me
That's
just say,
something everyone should be told, and everyone should have drilled into their minds, what the moment they enter the workforce. And I guess some people just don't have that.
well, I'll tell you, I know for some of those people, they don't just do the same thing every day. Like, they'll move them to different sections of the plant, and they'll be doing different things sometimes.
Learn the process, and that's great.
And sometimes they can advance to where they'll become like a team
Grow
lead.
your tool set. Grow your tool set, man.
So some of those people, they do advance within that realm. But I was going to ask you this. Now, I know you were saying upset about some of the ways that engineers are treated, and I was an engineer at Cummins, and I got laid off, from no fault of my own. Do you do you think it will be good for engineers to have a union?
I just don't see how that would work. The job is so merit based. Like, you can't fake it for very long. I mean, if you're a bad engineer, you're going to be gone. I mean, your skills are going to stagnate. You're not going to be hireable anywhere. I mean, it's like this. In my experience, I've worked with some pretty brilliant engineers, and I've worked with some pretty bad ones. And the brilliant ones, they just act like there's a wolf chasing them all the time. Like
Yeah.
there's someone coming to get them. And if
Yeah.
they don't figure out how to get over this hurdle, they're going to get eaten by that wolf. If they don't figure out how to grow their tool set so they can overcome the challenge before them, something they've never seen before, then that wolf's going to get them. And I learned from that breed of engineer. So,
So you don't think it'll be good or necessary? You don't think it'll be possible?
it would be possible, but I think it would have to be scaled really small.
Yeah.
It would have
I
to
think
be
it would be
narrowly
good
scaled.
because I got to be honest with you. I think it was better for me to be a technician than an engineer because the engineers, I think, since they're not in the union, they just lay them off whenever the economy goes bad. They bring in a lot of H-1B visas to dilute the pay scale. They I thought I was treated better as a technician
Yeah,
than I
you
was
do
as
that.
an engineer.
Well, yeah, because again, you got to kind of survive on your own. And I mean, you've heard me say this before. Once you got them by the balls, like, you've got so much business logic and process logic, like, intertwined with your presence, that it's like we can't even fathom getting rid of this guy, because our whole assembly area would shut down or something. It's like, just we can't do that.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
mean,
you're special, James. Not everybody's
I
special
don't think I'm
computer
special, man.
engineer like
I don't-
you know.
I don't think I'm special. I think I've learned from really good engineers, and I've just learned how to operate a certain way. And this harkens back to something I was mentioning earlier. I mentioned OpEx, operating expenditures. You see more of the business when you're an engineer, when you're a salaried or non-union employee. You have to survive more on your own merit, and you have to be able to just measure your worth. You're
Yeah.
not just a number. You're not just a number in a collection bargaining agreement. Like, you're an individual, and so you're going to have to survive on your own.
So let me ask Dane.
Mhm.
So I was saying, is my opinion, I think that engineers could benefit from a union. I also think that dealership mechanics could benefit from being in a strong union like the UAW. I don't know if you haven't been a dealership mechanic, Dane, but you did work at a kind of a dealership for lawnmowers or lawn equipment, right?
Yeah. When I was in like high school, I worked in a lawn and garden shop. And they were a dealer for for like Toro and Husqvarna or Echo, those kind of stuff, Simplicity tractors.
So I know a lot of mechanics that work at dealerships, they feel that they are paid and treated unfairly because they will usually work on flat rate to where you get paid so much for each job. You don't get paid for how many hours you're there. And they feel it's unfair because if they give you a bunch of warranty work that doesn't pay as much, and then there's always a whole bunch of arguments over who gets what job, and like, oh, you gave that guy a brake job and a 30,000 mile service, and you gave me a warranty check engine light. That's not fair if you do that for too long. And so they feel like they're not treated fairly. Do you think that dealership mechanics would benefit from being in a strong union like the UAW? What do you think?
No, because I feel like it's going to lower the skill I feel eventually it will lower the average skill set of the mechanics and technicians. I've never been a flat rate, but I don't hate flat rate. And because you can make more money being flat rate too. I'm sure you've seen that. Guys that get really good at said things, right? They got vehicles, known issues. They're going to grab every one of those that comes into the shop. And so flat rates, 2 hours, they can knock it out in 45 because they learned shortcuts. They've done it so many times. They can already lay their tools out. I'm sure anybody that's ever turned a wrench knows the first time they do something is going to take the longest. And the more you do it, the faster you get, the more tricks you learn, the more efficient you're going to be. So there's some benefits to being flat rate too. It helps keep the technicians accountable from a business owner standpoint. Being a dealership, most dealerships are owned by individuals. And so if you have someone that's paid hourly, they could have that mindset of, hell, I'm paid by the hour. I'll take 10 hours to do this job, versus they have that preset, time going into it, knowing I'm only gonna get paid for 2. So I better get it done in 2, and I better learn how to get this done quick. And then guys that can't survive, they got to find something else. Guys that do survive, they can thrive and they can make more. So I don't see where it helps from a dealership standpoint. I don't see where it helps from a customer standpoint as well. Being a customer to a dealership, maybe the mechanics that aren't able to make it at that more competitive rate, it would help them being in a union, but I don't think that helps the greater.
Okay. Well, I would tell you this, Dane. Most dealership mechanics absolutely despise flat rate. Maybe some at the top they like it, but I could tell you when I was at Honda, I was flat rate, but it was a 32-hour guarantee, and I always met my hours. So I think flat rate with a guarantee would be good, but I do think that for those other reasons that I mentioned before, them just arbitrarily changing your pay and laying off people and hiring people, I think that's where a union like the UAW will really help dealership mechanics. And it could still be flat rate, but flat rate with a guarantee. But that's probably, we'll see what happens with that. But all right. Well, anybody have any last words? We're going to wrap this up. Dane, do you have any last words you'd like to leave us with?
The hard reality for these people is for the most part, you work a low skill job. It is what it is. You're easily replaceable. Like you said earlier, it's not that hard for them to find replacements. It's probably the best job they have in that area. Realize you have what you have. You got a pretty cake job. You're getting a lot of your, health benefits taken care of. You're getting the retirement taken care of. You're working a pretty cush position. Can you afford a new Escalade? No, but guess what? You're not going to unless you develop the skills. Understand the reality. If you need to make lifestyle changes, stop, trying to live above your means. Do that. Don't rely on, what's this guy's name? Fink or something like that. I keep forgetting this guy's name. Don't rely on this nerd to save you. He ain't your Messiah. Joe Biden ain't your Messiah. Donald Trump ain't your Messiah. This guy's not your Messiah either. If you want better, you go find yourself better. That's what I got.
All right. What about you, Angry McNutty Face? What's your final words?
Hey man, it's just know your worth. and never stop learning, man. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Know your worth,
Okay.
never stop learning. I really hope this strike ends.
Oh.
I really hope they don't dig too much into their capital expenditure budget and have to fire a bunch of engineers. I'm a big fan of American-made vehicles, man, and I
Me
just
too.
I don't want to see the inevitable happen. It's a balancing act. If you're going to leverage so much into your OpEx budget, you're robbing yourself of future products. You're robbing yourself of positioning within your industry vertical. And it's, Sergio Marchioni said it very recently. I mean, there's only going to be maybe like 3 actual automakers by like 2050, and I'd like to see one of them be American. That's all.
Okay. All right. So to sum things up, y'all know I do like the UAW. I hope the strike ends early. I hope the strike ends soon anyway, and they come to an agreement. These companies are very profitable, and I think that they could work something out. I think that they should all negotiate for as much as they could get. And I will tell you, it doesn't just affect the big 3 that are in the UAW. When they get raises like that, it actually raises up all the companies in that area and in this country. Because I'll tell you, when I worked at Toyota, one of the engineers told me before I got there, one time GM, like they're known for paying the most for engineers and for everybody really in that area. They were hiring a bunch of Toyota engineers and paying them a lot more. So they were grabbing all the good Toyota engineers. So then Toyota had to raise the price, the pay for the engineers to keep them from leaving. So I think that if the UAW they get this raise, it'll raise up the other people in that area too, because they'll be like, well, look, I can just go work at GM or Ford, and I don't have to work at Hyundai or Nissan, and I get way more money. So then they have to start increasing their pay. So I think it's good. It kind of lifts the boat for everybody. I think we should stop pocket watching. We should stop being jealous of the CEO and stop being jealous of everybody, and negotiate for the best we could get. But anyway, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for coming on the podcast. If anybody has any questions or comments, please put them in the comments. and
We don't want to hear from you.
And yell at one of us that you disagree with, and we will argue in the comments forever.
Yeah,
I have to return some videos.
Bring it on. Whatever you got to say, you're wrong.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in, and have a good one.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.